Good evening. Welcome to the November 5th, 2020 Safety Commission meeting at the City Hall Council Chambers, City of New Ulm, Minnesota. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Our first order of business is to approve the agenda. Are there any additions or corrections before we start? Okay. All in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. We need to approve the minutes from our September 3rd meeting. Are there any questions or clarifications on the minutes? Mr. Hellendrung, do you have any comments you'd like to make on your notes?
No, just accept the minutes, waive the reading.
Second it.
Motion been made and seconded. All in favor of accepting the minutes from September 3rd, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. So our agenda this evening, first item is new business. There is no old business. So the first order of business is new business. We want to consider the past sidewalk ranking tabulation and do some amendments. Mr. City Engineer?
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair and Commission members. Last time this sidewalk ranking was looked at was back in 2015. And at the request of a Councilor Mack, one area he wanted to look at was the area on Highway 15 from Cottonwood Street to the existing sidewalk near the apartment complex across the highway from Hy-Vee. That area has been added to the list, to this draft list. Other locations that have been mentioned include North Front Street between 12th and 19th North, and North Valley Street from Center Street to 3rd North at his request as well. So back when this list was originally put together back in 2015, the commission members at that time, we got in the city van, drove around, looked at areas to really populate this list, and the scoring and rationale criteria are listed within the spreadsheet. Other things taken into consideration, if it's close to a school or a church or a public venue of some sort, if there seems to be an increased amount of pedestrian traffic in that area, and safety and things of that nature. So that list was put together. It hasn't been revisited or revised since that time, so we're bringing that to you today to look at the list, make any corrections or re-clarifications or re-ranking any of these segments or adding segments that you feel need to be added. And then if the commission feels like there's any sections that should be recommended to be ordered in by the city council, the commission can make that decision tonight as well. The last time that the commission did take an item, it was on that segment of State Street from 14th to 15th South, and at that time the city council opted not to order that section in, but we can always revisit that section as well if you choose to do so. So I will attempt to answer any questions you may have or provide clarification, but Mr. Chair, if it's all right with you, I kind of see this as an open dialogue between the commissioners and let you guys, and I'll just help facilitate as needed.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Stadheim. Well, commissioners, if you've had a chance to look at the list at all, do you have any questions or comments you'd like to bring forth? This is your chance.
I did take some time and went and looked. The Broadway on Cottonwood Street, there, I looked at it, I understand where they're looking for sidewalk area, but if they're looking at it there, shouldn't they be looking on it from the highway all the way back to Butternut in the Cottonwood area? Because that whole area actually is worse conditions than out on Broadway.
Yeah, that the area of that roadway, it really gets bottlenecked down in that low point where the Cottonwood River floods over the roadway there. The traffic on Cottonwood Street is obviously substantially less than the highway. Long term, we do have a route for a possible trail through Adams Park that would provide that connecting loop from the bridge, but I don't see that going in anytime soon. But we do have long-term plans, but at this time, we don't. It's not on any short-term list or anything like that for that connection up to the bridge anyway.
Would the Broadway one be through the Hoffman business area
Yeah, so it's
also?
really, there's very few property owners in this stretch. It's Hoffman Construction, and there's a couple homes just north of Hoffman there.
Yeah.
Right-of-way is kind of tight there, so if it is something you recommend, there's going to be some legwork on the city's side to secure some easements. I believe we don't have enough right-of-way to put that sidewalk in without easements, but that's not your concern.
Would that sidewalk have to be built differently than a standard sidewalk due to all the trucking business there?
Just probably through their driveway approaches. The rest of it, I think, is back far enough where it's wouldn't be in their general path of travel, in their parking lot or anything like that. That'd be something we'd have to discuss with Hoffman Construction as well to see how it would impact them, and if we have to cheat it a little bit closer to the highway, which we'd rather get a little bit larger of a boulevard there to provide that buffer. But all those things we have to take into consideration.
Okay.
Would there be any thought process to maybe putting it on the other side of the highway? Because that seems to be probably a more traveled route, I'm not sure.
I think the reasoning for this side of the highway is, or on the west side, is that's where that foot traffic would be coming from, and then the crossing would be at the 20th South signal instead of at that spot where speeds are increasing and decreasing at that kind of at that intersection, and the sight lines aren't that great.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
just multiple lanes of traffic to cross the highway at that spot.
Joanne, had you wanted to say something?
Well, I was a member of the Safety Commission in 2015 when this was put to sleep. And it was said by the Safety Commission that what's left, it really is not a priority. And I kind of feel like right now with the pandemic, people out of jobs, et cetera, business is hurting. I don't know where Hoffman Construction is right now as far as, do they want to spend thousands of dollars dealing with a sidewalk? I'm not sure that this is an appropriate time to bring this up. I went and I looked at every single one of these. And there's some areas in town, the houses are very marginal that are missing the sidewalks. Do we want to impose upon them to do this? And if so, I don't think it should be something that has to be done in a year. I think here we need to be a little flexible and say a 5-year plan or something like that. People are hurting right now, and I don't think we need to be doing this right now. There's a lot of streets going to be going in. Some of these are impacted in those same areas. They're not going to only get hit with sidewalk, but street improvements. And yes, there's a lot of places where the sidewalk is here and then it's missing here. And then there's also a lot of places, like at Hoffman Construction, it's a parking lot. Do we need to have a sidewalk too? Forced transfer, Dairy Queen, same thing. It's a parking area. Now are we going to make them put a sidewalk there besides? I think there's a lot of things that need to be looked at here. I think we need to consider a lot of things.
Yep, that's very true. Any other comments or questions?
As a member of the Safe Routes to School Committee, I would, this original one came out before that even was a thought. So maybe what could happen is it could be a collaboration, and the Safe Routes to School Committee can look at this and see if they have any recommendations. But I agree, it doesn't need to be something that's done within the next year.
Okay. Are there any other comments?
Another area that's being looked at as far as sidewalk is next to the car dealership, Chuck Spade.
Okay.
There's cars driving in there,
Mhm.
and we're going to put sidewalk there besides? I don't think so.
Sure.
You know, I think this needs to be looked at a lot closer.
Okay.
Would they require sidewalks in places that are tarred areas?
We could probably get by without and maybe do some striping to really delineate where people should be walking, but I would agree that it probably.
If it's well-maintained,
Right, yeah.
tarred
As long as
areas.
there's like an accessible route that's,
Right.
yeah, I could be on board with that, yeah.
The thing that I did see on Broadway, talking about that, there are quite wide bike lanes. I mean, I think that's what the white lines between the curb and the roadway are, or is that, or what's
No,
the
that-
purpose of
They're
that?
really just designating the lanes of travel. They're not specifically designed as bike lanes.
Okay.
so.
Because that's a state highway, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, so that's just the
Yeah, that,
median, or not median, but the,
it used to be where it wasn't striped, so you had that really wide outside lane, and this way they really tried to delineate it. Helps with speed, keeping people where they should be in that lane of travel.
Okay.
yep.
Is that a practical idea, is to use part of that for a walkway, bike lane? I'm not sure. I don't know what the laws and the rules say.
I guess I would probably stay away, just because of the speed
Yeah.
and the amount of traffic.
It disappears. All of a sudden, it's gone.
Yeah.
Because that roadway width varies from
Yeah.
block to block and
Okay.
whatnot.
Yeah, I would not recommend
Yeah.
No.
people bicycling on Broadway, and that's part of Broadway anyway.
Sure.
There's one here, 13th South Street, uncompleted north side, that I think should be removed from here unless the city wants to put in a great big retaining wall. It's a very steep hillside. There's no way you're gonna put a sidewalk there.
On 13th South, what number, what priority or number was that?
2,
Number 2? Okay.
there's a huge hill there. There's no room
Well,
to
I'm
put a-
sorry, what,
Number 11.
number
Yeah.
11?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Oh, sure. Mhm.
No, number 23.
Oh,
Go down further.
There's two.
Oh, German to
there's-
Minnesota.
two sections, yeah.
There's
Okay.
two sections to it.
Sure.
Is that close to South Park?
No, that's kind of in the area of like Taco John's and that
I
area.
Got
think
it.
the
Down the-
South
down the
Park
hill
one
from-
got removed in 2015.
I'm just trying to get my
Well, that-
bearings.
That
one
road was just put in not that long ago, was it?
South Park.
No, the 13th South.
Oh, it's been there. Yep.
On time.
There was one section in there where there was no road, and then they put a road in.
That was 17th South, and we put walk in with
Oh,
that. Yep.
okay.
That right adjacent to South Park. Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And are any of these on streets that are scheduled to be like redone?
Not particular. No.
Okay.
A lot of these, there might be a few scattered in here and there, and obviously a segment like that, if we were going to reconstruct it, then that would be like what we did on South Front Street, where we filled those gaps in, and that would be
Right.
an appropriate time to do so. And a project like that, the costs turn out to be much cheaper for the homeowners as well when we do it in conjunction with a project like that.
Right, that's what I was going
Yep.
to suggest, if there were any overlaps.
When the councilman wanted this reviewed, did he give any certain things that he was
He just
concerned with?
received, he stated that he received a few calls from some constituents up in that neighborhood who would like to be able to, walk that area, to meet up with that existing walk to get, whether it's to use the signal to get to Hy-Vee or
Okay,
other
well,
destinations to the north. Yep.
okay, that was the main one that they were concerned about.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, there aren't any others on this list.
The other areas that I mentioned, would, North Front from 12th to 19th, but I think in 2015, we maybe looked at that area, Joanne, you might remember better than me maybe, but we decided, or the commission at that time decided that the trails, really just a half block off of Front Street, so that one was not put on the list, maybe, but, and then the other segment is North Valley Street, kind of in the Firmenich area, from Center Street to Third North. That's kind of a busy corridor with all the truck traffic and stuff in there as well. Like I said, I don't know how much pedestrian traffic is down in that area. I just not down there enough to really get a good grasp.
On Bridge Street was another one that we kind of said there just isn't traffic there.
Yep, and Bridge Street's a very difficult corridor with all the stuff we got in the ground there,
Right.
and just really have a lack of room to get something to fit in there with all the power poles and junction cabinets and everything else that's in the way. That's only a 60-foot right-of-way with way too much stuff in the ground.
But I think as people are looking at this, there may be a fear. Okay, now we keep opening this up. We keep opening this up. When are we going to say whatever is there is there? You buy a property, you assume that this is how it's going to stay. But then things keep changing. We have a lot of short little streets, little loops. Are they all of a sudden going to get hit with sidewalk? I think there comes a time we say, they're all grandfathered in the way they are, rather than constantly bringing it up again.
Well, I think of the aspect, like he says, if they're doing major street work on it, then would be the opportunity to then implement these, not so much as to put them in other ways. There's one here for South Park on 17th, I think it was. And that one, you know, they want to put in sidewalk, but you can't put it in on the park side because you've got
That's the ravines right
the
there.
ravine right there. So, why, you know, that one, why should we make the people on the other side of the street pay for a sidewalk to get to the park? We're still gonna have to cross the street to where there's no sidewalk. You know, so, you know, that becomes questionable why we would need it. And it's in an area where I don't think you're gonna see much foot traffic. Anytime I've been to that park and over the years with grandkids and that, you never see anybody walking there. They're usually driving there and unloading. So,
I noticed a few there today playing frisbee. That whole area, so it's to me it's for everyone. I mean, it's not designated as a walking area.
yeah,
So,
they got a frisbee golf course there
yeah. Hey.
set up.
Is there a process for residents? So if they got together as their neighborhood and said that they wanted to have a sidewalk put in?
Well, that would be a first. But yeah, certainly
Okay.
they could petition for that. Yeah, yep.
Sure. So there is a remedy. So if a
Yep.
a group
Yeah,
of
if there's a
people-
neighborhood that, doesn't have it, one that sticks out is kind of, if you look up off of Summit, the Jonathan Drive, Whitney
Sure.
area, there's no walk up there either. But yeah, if a neighborhood like that decided, we want sidewalks up there, and obviously it's gonna be cheaper cost to do it as a big neighborhood. So They
Right.
could petition that, yep, and city would assess those costs back to the property owners.
Okay, so that's an option for the people that
certainly.
live
Yep.
there.
Yep.
And did I see that you added that on here, or did I miss it? Is it the one way at the end?
No, that's just kind of, if you look kind of from Minnesota Street, from 8th North, down to the railroad tracks, that's that Spring Street
Okay.
neighborhood area there.
So is the one that you got the call about though from the counselor, is that's not on this
Yeah,
list?
that's the
Yes.
first
Oh,
one.
it's the
First one.
first one, okay.
that's
I'm
the-
sorry.
The Broadway one.
Yeah, so I just put it in that first spot, and if you guys want me to re-rank it, I certainly can. I just put it on there so we can have the discussion and
Sure.
decide what you guys want to do
Sure.
with it.
Well, if someone has a feeling and would like to make a motion regarding what we should do tonight, you want to recommend, we can recommend one or more. We can not do anything. I mean, the table's open, right?
Yep,
Joe,
you can
we
do
can-
whatever you guys feel is pertinent, so. Or you can receive the information and order filed, or you can have us as
Okay.
staff re-rank some of these things, add or remove, and then order it filed and revisit at a future date, or whatever
Sure.
whatever you'd like us to do.
Well, in a sense, I can understand a little bit about the Highway 15 Broadway one there because of that, but my aspects right now would be to table it to further investigation to find out what the effects are to Hoffman Construction and whatever else areas are there, and how they would, how it would affect them, or how they would want to change it. Because you wouldn't be going down Cottonwood Street with sidewalk on Hoffman's south end.
Yeah, it's, again, one of those areas, maybe in the future at some point when we need to reconstruct that segment from the bridge to the highway, we may put it in. Probably only on one side there because we only have sidewalk on the one side of the Cottonwood Street Bridge. But yeah, we still need that connection in that flood-prone area, which is going to be a little difficult as well. But
And at this point, how often are you going to have to reconstruct that sidewalk with the flooding and rushing water, et cetera, that's going to tear them out?
well, hopefully it would hold up as good as the road has the last handful of years. We would construct it in the same manner with that anchoring in place, but very good point. That just, it makes.
Who's
construction costs,
responsible
yeah,
for it?
Yep, yep.
What are your wishes? For my part, I understand what Joanne's saying about the economy and the impact on our residents. I would not get, for my part, I don't think we should get too wild with it because it is a tough time. People are unemployed, have a lot of uncertainty, just a tough time. So for my part, I would not recommend a lot of things. I guess if we have a couple that we are very strongly feel is a dangerous situation, or if you wanna receive the information and sit on it till we can find out more, I mean, whatever decision you wanna move forward with.
I'd like to, I make a recommendation that we receive the information and take a closer look into the, Highway 15 Broadway situation. Not recommending it has to be done, but to find out, like he says, what would the effect be to Hoffman Construction? There's also other businesses along that area that would lead to that. What effects would that have? So, because I've been out at Hoffman's, they've got the big equipment moving around there. They've got that scale right in that area. And
Yep.
so you're gonna need more than just a regular sidewalk.
I've been out in that area a lot with using Hoffman's
Yeah.
dump site. I have rentals, et cetera. I've never seen anyone walking there, ever. I just can't see that this is a high priority.
You know, part of it is maybe people aren't walking there because they don't feel it's safe. And
Sure.
it's not safe because there aren't a designated area to make sure that people can walk there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're looking at, what comes first, I think if we look at this from a safety point of view, are there items on this list that people are walking on it or using it on the street or whatever? And then if that's an unsafe situation, then maybe we should go ahead with those and not do some of the other ones. And also ask if the neighbors, like Amanda suggested, if people out petition the city to put these in, then we should, that would be put it up higher on priority. So, it's, I guess I'm not going up with any conclusion other than,
Sure.
I guess I agree with what a lot of you are saying, and just bits and pieces of it put together.
Amanda, is Safe Routes to School, have they seen this list in the past, do you know?
I've been on it for a couple of years and
I highly doubt that.
I
they've
don't
seen-
think
no,
so.
I don't think
Would
No.
that be appropriate for them to look at that?
so. Well, I think,
I mean, it could help
yeah, just to
with
get
the
their input on
ranking
the
and the safety,
yeah.
yeah.
the uncompleted sections, if,
Of what I've looked at, I don't think they affect the school.
there's not a lot that are near schools. A lot
Right.
of those segments are mostly complete.
In
Right.
2015, that was the priority of the safe walkways to the schools.
Okay.
Those are the ones that got put in first.
Okay.
Now, when I went to every one of these, and if I set a priority, I would say the area by the fairgrounds, by the Dairy Queen, forced transfer, where there's a lot of people walking on the streets when there's things going on the fairgrounds. There's like 3 of them there. That to me would be a bigger priority than a lot of these off of Minnesota, et cetera. But we did almost all of those going to the different schools in 2015. All that got put in. That was the priority of safe, that was the beginning of the safe walking. And the rest of these are kind of,
They're just,
Off.
they're those gaps.
Mhm.
Yep, yep.
you know, this part of this block is done, but this part isn't.
Yeah, one thing that we noticed when we look at this from a staff perspective is there was a period of time kind of in the 70s where the sidewalk wasn't ordered in when the street improvements were ordered in, and now we're left playing catch up, which is, to be blunt, is pretty difficult to do. One, to assess it and to really prioritize which ones need it, which ones don't. So a lot of these areas are in the neighborhood where I live, and if we happen to be walking on this roadway segment that doesn't have it, we're just walking the street because the roads aren't that busy. So, but yeah, I think from the school perspective, from the school perspective, I would say the vast majority of the schools we have covered really well.
Okay.
But there may be walking routes that the schools recommend that maybe have a gap. I think most of the actual recommended routes are sidewalked, are the safer routes because of the sidewalk.
Right.
But maybe they could be made more efficient with some of these completed sections, and maybe that's what the Safe Routes to School team can do, is look at that, and we have a gap here and here that the Safe Routes to School group feels that we should complete, and then share that with the Safety Commission or myself, and I can get that information to you guys as well. So
Yeah.
I believe the more input we can have, the better net we can cast to make a real informed decision.
I happened to mention that I was coming to this meeting, and the gentleman I was talking with was here 5 years ago for the State Street 14th, 15th, which is by Our Savior's Church. And he says, yeah, maybe in the summer they'd use the sidewalk. He says, but in the winter, when you got 3 feet of snow piled up on the boulevard, they're going to still walk down the street. They're not going to use any sidewalk. So he says, here we got the same story. And they do have that cul-de-sac to
That
drop
off
people
area. Yeah.
And I happened to talk to the pastor today, because that was one of my concerns. And they have added an elevator. In the past, that was kind of an issue there, because if you were at all, I don't know what the proper term is, but handicapped or had trouble walking or moving, you had to come in the top, because from the backside was all stairs. Now they have an elevator, so people can come in from the backside and not be on the street. So that's eliminated a lot of their safety issues. So from their standpoint, they don't see a lot of need for it, and they don't see a lot of walking traffic on that road anymore, except for during church.
Yeah, they have a substantial parking lot in,
Yep,
in
they
the back
do.
of their building.
They
Yep.
do.
And that church would have 3 blocks worth of sidewalk.
They
And
would
the
rehit.
churches right now are hurting.
Yeah.
People aren't attending.
So, but yeah, that and, if we'd be talking for the church one, across the street is 2 businesses. And there is no sidewalk there.
Mhm.
And one of them is it's in a kind of a house,
It's a quilt
Quilt
shop.
shop.
quilt shop. And there's basically no sidewalks there. So, that would be one I would be more inclined towards. The other one has a large parking space.
Greater Minnesota.
Yeah. So, but I would say I don't know how to state that.
You could table it for more information. You
Table
could
or
see
receive an
the
order
ac-
filed, and we'll just-
Receive and file and,
and we can revisit it if there's a certain time period you want it
Okay.
to brought back, or at the call of the chair when we want to revisit it.
Good. I think we should table it and
Well, we should decide to table it, or then you have to have an end date to table it to some, or if
Yep.
you receive and file, then we have a little more open-ended. So, isn't that right?
Yep, you receive an order file, and
Yep.
you can just, if you want staff to re-rank anything, or if you just want to receive an order filed as is, we can do that, and we can revisit it at a future date to be determined.
file, how about the possibility of sharing this with Safe Routes?
That's what I was thinking, maybe since it's been 5 years, maybe it's time for them to take a look at it and then see if they would have any suggestions for re-ranking that they could suggest to the city, and you
Yep,
could take
then we
that
could-
under advisement.
Yeah, and then at one of the next meetings, after Safe Routes looks at it, Safety Commission can reassess and re-rank based on the comments provided by the Safe Routes to School team.
Sure.
And maybe setting a date of maybe next fall, that maybe the economy will have straightened out, to look at it in the fall. A lot of these are half blocks.
Mhm.
They're little bits that maybe they need to be done. And then the city is done. And then sidewalks can be put to rest. And what isn't done, if they're going to redo the street, then they do the sidewalk, fine, but I think it's time to close it.
Sure.
Yeah. As long as the neighborhood has the option to put one in if they really want it, then I'm fine with
Yep.
not ordering them in.
Okay, so what are your wishes? Somebody want to make a motion?
How do we want to state it?
I do want it read.
So what do you want to, tell me what you want to say, I guess, is, you
Well-
want to receive and file?
Receive and file
Okay.
would be, now would that require a future date?
Nope.
No.
No.
And share it with,
Receive and file and share the information with the
Safe
Safe-
Routes to School team.
State Streets, yeah.
Safe Routes to School.
Safe
Safe
routes.
Routes. Okay.
Okay, so that's your motion. You're gonna-
Motion is, yeah.
Okay, motion has been made to receive and file the sidewalk, what's the proper term? Ranking tabulation, and share that information with the Safe Routes to School people and re-examine it at a date to be determined in the future.
Yeah.
Okay, is that right? Is there a second?
I would second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Just one question on that. Commissioner Grebner, will
Yes.
you be that liaison between the Safety Commission and the Safe Routes to School team, or do you want me to take care of that?
There's a Safe Route to School director.
Okay.
So I would be in contact with them. I would.
That's right, she's through ISD 88, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. She works at the
Perfect.
schools.
Okay.
Schools. Mm-hmm.
Very good. The only other business item we have that is not on the agenda is we are in process of looking for a few new members for our commission. We have some people that are going off, and so we will need replacement. If you know of anyone who may be interested in that position, we would love to have their name. Those of you who are seeing this online, if you have an interest in serving on the Safety Commission and being involved in the community, please contact Joe Stadheim at the city, and we will forward your name in the future.
Yeah, we're in need of 4 commissioners, so,
Four
Yep.
spots.
so yeah, send them my way. We'll take all the names we can get for this. So.
Okay. With that, we have no more business items. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Second.
I'll second.
Motion been made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all for your time. Have a nice evening.
Just before everybody runs away, or walks away, it's amazing to me. Everybody in this room
Yeah, yeah.
I got